What is up, guys? I am going to show you how to access data with an API. So in the first two videos that are the previous videos that I've made, we were getting data from a CSV file with like an easy data set off of Kaggle. And this is very easy and it's very beginner friendly to access your data like that. But the problem is it's not exactly the real world way to do it. And in most cases, you're not going to have some like neatly made data set on Kaggle. You're going to actually have to go out there and collect data. So we are using an API from Yelp. So just to summarize, basically, Yelp is a very, very highly visited website. It's a very big website and platform. And because they're very rich and they've got tons of data. And by rich, I meant rich in data, although I'm sure there's people that are financially rich as well. But anyway, they're very rich data sources. And because of that, they've developed an API that allows people to access their data to do data science projects with, or analysis, or other types of things. So we import the requests library first, and this will help us basically use their API. So, and the API, a lot of the stuff is general for APIs, although some of it is specific to the Twitter API and how it works. Or sorry, not Twitter, Yelp. So we start off with a base URL, and we are using this URL because we are doing a business search. But you can go to api.yelp.com/v3 to find other links to basically perform other types of functions. And we have a key. So the key is a string value, and it's basically just like some random combination of like numbers that are capitalized, lowercase, and numbers and letters and all types of crap. But I'm keeping it hidden because this is like, you want to keep your key private. You don't want anyone to see your key. So and actually, if you post code on GitHub that shows your API keys, they'll actually send you a notification to hide your keys. So I'm hiding my keys in a text file that lives inside of my computer. And this is essentially the format for doing this. Like, you create a text file inside your computer, you paste your keys in the text file, like right here. Like, you create new text document, double click, Control V, well, you know what I mean. But you paste your keys in there, and then let me delete that. You paste your keys in there, and then you basically tell it to open the file path to that document, and then you do .read lines, and then you index of 0. And now Yelp specifically requires you pass this headers parameter where you put the key function. So it goes like authorization, bearer, and then you have key. I don't know why they just like it set up like that. And then you have your parameters. This is our search. So we are searching, we have like a node address, like a kind of like a focal point. You can use a city, a zip code, latitude, longitude, coordinates. I'm using a particular address. And then we can have a certain type of business that we're looking for. I'm looking for malls. And then we have a radius. This is in meters. So I believe 5,000 meters is like 3 miles approximately. Yeah, it's like 3 miles-ish. So we're basically looking for all the malls within 3 miles of this address. But then we set limit to 3. So I think I looked at it, there's like 6 total malls in a 3-mile radius of this address, but we just want to see the first 3 that come up. So this is how our search is working. So and then we run it. let me make sure all of this has been run. And then we have a requests.get, and then you pass in the URL and the headers and the parameters. Sometimes, in many cases, you're always going to do request.get URL. It's just you may or may not need to pass headers and parameters depending on what API you're working with. But in Yelp, we do. And now we get a response, a 200, and when we get a 200, that means it's good. If we get, I believe, if we get a 400, it means we've entered in a combination that doesn't exist, like an invalid address or an invalid term for business, invalid business term, or misspelled the URL somewhere. And if we get a 404, it means, I could be wrong about the details of this. If we get like a 404, I think it is, it means that our keys are wrong. Or not provided or something like that. So now to actually see this data, it is in a JSON format. So we do response.json, and you put parentheses at the end. So now response. There we go. Okay, so by the way, the only error was that I forgot to run the cell that has response. So when I typed in response.json, the computer didn't know what response was. It was undefined. So this is what we get. Now, the problem is this is kind of sloppy. So we're gonna go within this JSON. And the thing about a JSON is they used to scare me, like the term. I was like, JSON, what the hell is a JSON? All it is it's basically just a dictionary that often has a bunch of dictionaries inside of it. Like I mean, there's probably like a more technical definition, but that's pretty much what it is. So we only want businesses because like that's what the whole dictionary is. So we're gonna do businesses. And now we have a list of dictionaries. So let's just say this is called, let's just call this like query, even though it's really not a query, but this is our like search query. So our query is gonna have a length of 3. Our query has a length of 3 because there are 3 businesses in the request, in the request. So let's print the query. Let's look at the query again, and let's look for certain things we want out of the query. So let's do for Q in query. So basically the Q in query. So for each of these little dictionaries, for each dictionary, which we're assigning as Q, because it's the Q within the query, each dictionary, we're going to extract the following data. So we're going to print mall, let's say mall. Let's say, yeah, mall, and then we're gonna do a dot format. So we're basically printing mall :space and then the name of the mall. So let's do Q of name. And so Q is the dictionary and then name is the key that we're accessing. So now if we print this, we will get mall, Westfield Century City, Beverly Center, and Tokyo Japanese Lifestyle. Those are the 3 malls. And if we would also print rating, let me make sure I'm like spelling everything right here. So rating, maybe, yeah, it's rating. So rating, rating, and dot format. Q of rating. And we're also, just so it looks a little more neater, yeah, looks a little neater, we will have a print a blank line as well. And print does not get uppercase. So I don't know what I was thinking there, but now we have the mall and the rating. And we also notice that we have a little price. This is, let's say we have a little price. So let's say we want to get how long each price is, or like how many dollar signs it is. Like the more dollar signs it is, the more expensive it is. So let's do like pricing, and we'll do so actually, but we don't really care about like seeing the number of dollar signs. We want to know how many dollar signs it is so we can quantify it. So we'll take the length of Q of price, Q. And now I promise this is the last one. We'll take an review count and then print our blank. So reviews, and let's not do length. Let's just do Q of review count. So now we're going to print a whole bunch of stuff, and we're just printing it, which, I mean, it's great that we can see this, but we want to like be able to store this data. So basically I'm just gonna show you how to make a dictionary. This isn't that different from what I've done before. And if you notice, I'm trying to teach some Python fundamentals through the process of this. So this is kind of like, this video is just for reference, like I kind of assumed for people that just have started with coding and learning Python, but are just wanting to see some examples of what you can do with it. So that's basically why I'm making these. But anyway, we're gonna have, so now that I've cleaned this up a bit, we'll basically get a dictionary for results. And it's put all in the dictionary. And the reason why it's a little weird looking, because we got like, you know, like all three of the mall names, and then we got like all three of the ratings and stuff, is so that it'll look better when we do this, present this in a data frame. And we'll do pd.dataframe. Put the results in a data frame. And now we have a data frame that has the name of the business, the rating and the pricing and the number of reviews. So let's rewrite this as a function, and then we will we'll do this okay, let's just call it query. That's a terrible naming convention. Query to df, query to df, and we're going to take in a query, not a query, but a query. We'll take in a query, and we're essentially going to copy and paste all of this, except we will, move it over so that it fits the syntax, and we will also return this. So we will return this, and we will or let's use this again. So now we're going to use this on a bigger data set. So we're going to we're going to get rid of this cell here, and we're just going to make a bigger query. So there's probably not nearly as many malls as there are food in our radius, because there's way more restaurants and places to get food than there are malls, generally speaking. So there we go. So we have our location, and we're looking for food. Let's increase the radius to to 10,000 meters, which is like 6 miles on either side. So it's like a 12-mile diameter of the circle that we're looking at, and we're not going to set a limit. So now we have different results. So we will call this function, and we'll pass in the query, which is response.json of business. Was it business or businesses? It was businesses, I think, of 0. And I knew I was going to get an error. Let me see what I'm working with. You know what I did? I indexed it. And then, okay. So now I forgot to tell you this, but this is just only something I figured out through trial and error in my past experiences. But there's they don't always have pricing listed. like the number of dollar signs. So we're going to do a try. We're going to throw an exception. So when you throw an exception, you do try, and then the code will try to do this. This is what we'd rather do. But the problem is it may not work. So, but we don't want it to break the program. So to keep the program running, we throw an exception, and then we have it do something that's like guaranteed to work. This is a common debugging tactic, and it's also best practice to include them wherever possible when you're writing packages or other code that will get used repeatedly. So let's do except, and then we'll append just like none. Like it's just like the data sets, like that piece of data for this certain data point is just not available. So rather than doing that, we'll just do none. And then none also has to be capitalized. Yeah, none. So none is, there we go. So now some of these, as you can see, they're not available. But this is our table. So let's just do like df. And now we got df. We got a data frame of restaurants in Los Angeles area. So now we're going to, last thing I'll do here is I'm going to show you how to turn this into a CSV file, because this took me like an embarrassingly long time to figure out, but it's like super easy. So basically you do two CSV, and then you make up like a file path for it to go. So c dot slash, you know, I'm just going to do this. So we've got, so you pass in where you want it to go, and then you're gonna, so like up until here, you're telling it where to go, like go in my users folder, into my users, into my username folder, into OneDrive, into desktop, so that it will show up on my desktop. And then you add the name of the files. So we're gonna call this like LA restaurants. If I misspelled restaurants and you can tell, please correct me. I'm not a very good speller. Okay, so we just ran this. And now if we look in our area, oh, come on, sometimes it takes us, oh yeah, there we go. We look on our desktop, I told it to go to my desktop, here it is, LA restaurants. And now we have our very own CSV file. So that's been the video. I hope you got something out of this, and at least what this video is aimed to do is at least show you kind of like how you can access data with an API, and what an example of that might look like. So you can work with Yelp, you can work with many other APIs if you want. Just have fun, build some projects with some APIs, and see you in the next one.